Okay, let's get into discharge medications. Click on this blue edit button. This opens up the discharge medications routine, which is essentially the opposite of continue from ambulatory. At the top here you see the home medication list. Down here at the bottom you see the patient's current inpatient medications, what they're receiving as an inpatient. And down here at the very bottom, this is kind of reminiscent of CPOE, of POM, where you can order individual medications, create new prescriptions down here at the bottom. We'll come back to details about that. One thing I want to mention is that the home medication list is of critical importance. In fact, it always has been. What this routine does is it presents to the physician more immediately the potential inaccuracies of medications on the home med list. Of course, checking them off on a piece of paper does that as well. But now you have a little bit more information about what has occurred here. And if the information is inaccurate, it will potentially cause more difficulties and chagrin. So the processes around creating the home medication list are going to be enhanced greatly. New pharmacy techs are going to be deployed in the emergency room to capture home medications earlier. There are nursing processes and pharmacy processes to monitor the completeness and accuracy of the home medication list. And the goal here is to make this list as accurate and as complete as possible prior to the time of discharge, so that the physician who is now actively clicking around in the discharge routine can have accurate and complete information to work with. Everyone involved, nursing, pharmacy, medical staff, IT, realizes that the discharge medication reconciliation process is only as good as the home medication list. So, onward. I'd mentioned that this is the sort of the opposite of continue from ambulatory. And you can see some of the elements of those connections here. So under omeprazole, this was reported as a patient's home medication by whoever took in the medication list in the beginning. And you can see that it was converted. On the continue from ambulatory screen, you know how you can, if a medication is non-formulary, if you click replace by pharmacy, then pharmacy will take that non-formulary medication and match it to an inpatient one. This converted word here indicates that that's what happened with the Prilosec. So we'll continue that medication. We'll go through this in a fairly simple fashion. The patient was on Xanax at home as a reported medication that was held during their hospital stay. We'll go ahead and continue that. They were on this combination medication, lisinopril and hydrochlorothiazide, which similarly would be a non-formulary medication. It was listed as a reported medication by the pharmacy tech or nurse, and you can see that it was converted by pharmacy into inpatient medications. We'll see that below. Well, we'll just continue their home medication there. They were also on Lasix at home. That was a reported medication, and that was continued because there is a one-to-one match of the ambulatory Lasix to the inpatient Lasix. We'll continue that as well. And they were on some ibuprofen at home, which was held during their hospital stay, and they don't need that anymore, so let's stop that. Now let's look here. So you go through the home medications first, and then you look at their inpatient medications to see if there are any of these that you want to continue. You'll notice that some of these have been grayed out. You can't continue them. So IV fluids, IV medications in general, you cannot continue, with some exceptions. Here's an IV fluid with an antibiotic in it. You can't continue that. The Lasix, we've already addressed the Lasix above. We continued that, and you can see that that's been grayed out here as well. Hydrochlorothiazide and lisinopril were the two components of that ambulatory medication that were split apart by pharmacy on the admission side of things. And you can see because we've resumed that combination pill at home, you can't continue that. And they're on a nicotine patch here in the hospital. I'm just going to skip that for now. And here they were on Protonix as an inpatient. That was omeprazole was the home medication, and that was converted by pharmacy to Protonix. Because we've resumed their omeprazole, that's been grayed out here as well. And here in the hospital, they're also on trazodone, which we're not going to mess with, and warfarin. We'll go ahead, and we're going to create a prescription off the warfarin. So by clicking this button here, it's going to initiate the process to print out a prescription on the floor and eventually e-prescribe. So we click that, and you see that these little green components of the ordering string light up. You can go in here and you can change elements of these things, but you'll notice there's a very faint yellow outline here around quantity and days. This is a bit annoying, but one of the things to learn is to use quantity rather than days. This becomes important on the e-prescribing side of things. And you can just click right in this box here, and it tees up possible things you might want to order, or you can type in whatever quantity you want. So once you pick quantity, it unrequires the days part. You can either put in quantity or days, but not both, and quantity is preferred. I'm going to do one other thing here, which is to point out this details column. If you click on details, it opens up all the elements of that string into a different table, essentially, where you can modify these different things. There's a lot of stuff in here. I don't want to confuse you now, but I do want to point out this patient instructions box. This is where you can enter specific things that will show up on the prescription. Remain on steady vitamin K diet. I'm just making this up as I go. So you can see that there are some words here in the elements. So now in that little bubble here means that there is something typed into those patient instruction field. So now we're teed up to be able to create a prescription for this warfarin. Let's say we've continued some home medications, we've created a new medication based on an inpatient one, but let's say there's something else I want to send them home with. So you come down here into the common medication search field, and you'll notice that you're ordering medications. For now, we're not using medical equipment. We may get sets up soon, hopefully. And this is an important button over here, this common and name. So common is a set of commonly prescribed medications that have all of the elements in the string, or most elements in the strings, pre-filled to make it easier to order them. This common list is growing very rapidly and will continue to grow. The name is the entire ambulatory medication dictionary, which has many, many, many thousands of drugs in it, many more than you want to see. So in general, you want to try to stay in this common section, which is the default. I want to point out one thing about this. I apologize for the complexity of this, but I'm going to pick a drug that's not likely to be in the common section, amphotericin. So you start typing here, and you can find amphotericin, but notice what happened up here. It switched from common over to name. Couldn't find it in the common section, so it flipped over to name. Once you're in this name section, chances are that none of these strings are going to be filled out. That's POS, powder, and you end up with all sorts of stuff that is either not filled in or stuff that doesn't seem familiar to you because you're not a pharmacist. So one of the goals, of course, is for us to have as many medications in the common section as possible. Now let's back out of that and let's pick one that is in the common section because it's not all as difficult as I'm suggesting. Let's do Flagyl. So there's Flagyl. It's in the common section, and when I open this up, it has many of the strings pre-built. I want to do 500 milligrams POTID, and you can see that the number part is pre-filled here. So let's check that. And just to reinforce what I mentioned about the patient instructions, let's go here under the details column, which opens up the details of the string. 500 milligrams POTID, number 21, tabs. And the patient instructions could say avoid alcohol. Of course, you don't have to do this part. I just want to show you how the instructions part work. This is useful for medications that are more complicated, such as alternating warfarins or tapers, that type of thing. So now we've created this string. I've put some comments in there. You can see that there's something in there by virtue of that bubble being lit. And I'm going to go ahead and select the medication. So the tendency that I and everybody who starts on this starts doing is you click OK. OK will work, but it files everything and takes you out of the routine. Once you've created a new medication, you want to hit select. It does do interaction checking, and I suspect that is turned off here in test because typically there'd be an interaction check between warfarin and metronidazole. But anyway, now you can see that this is a new order, and you're teed up to go ahead and order another medication if you wanted to. But let's, for the purposes of the demonstration, call it quits now. And I click OK, and it's going to file all that stuff. This is an opportunity to look at your changes you've made. And the red means that it is creating a new prescription. You can see over here it's new. The darker font is that it's continued. You can see that this is the Flagyl is a new prescription, and the warfarin is in red, and you're creating it based on an inpatient medication. So I'll go ahead and file that. This screen will be defaulted to print on the prescription printer that's closest to the device you're on. So for the purpose of the demonstration, I'll show you that. So we would click print here. But this will be defaulted to the nearest printer associated with the computer that you're using. If you're doing this from home, the idea is that it will print in the bed center, which is staffed 24 hours a day by a responsible person who can assist nursing to get that prescription to the patient's chart. So I'll go ahead and save that now. And now you can see that what used to just be that little empty box now has the new prescriptions, continued medications, and stop medications. I want to show you one other little element here, which is if you go down to Preview Patient Report, you can see that it's broken up in this fashion with new prescriptions, continued medications, and stop taking these medications. And instead of saying HS, it does translate most of this stuff into patient-friendly information, like bedtime. Okay, well that's introduction to it. There'll be a couple other sessions about more complicated ordering. Thank you.